Hi, my name is David Dickerson, and today I'm going to be doing the oral history interview with my father, Joseph Dickerson. Would you like to introduce yourself and
Sure.
say a little bit about what you do?
Sure, David. I'm Joe Dickerson. I'm David's father. Really happy to be doing this interview to help him with his class.
All right, let's get started. So, how did you first get started owning your own law firm?
Well, I started out working for larger law firms when I graduated from law school in 1991. Both the firms I worked for, like many large law firms, required the new associates to bill a lot of hours.
Right.
The first firm required over 200 billable hours a month, which required that I work 60 to 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
The second firm I worked for didn't require quite as much, but it was still a lot for a new father at the time who wanted to have time for family as well as work. During the time I was there, I had developed a steady billable client who wanted to stay with me if I had left to start my own firm while I was working there at the larger law firms. That gave me the confidence to take the risk to go out and hang my own shingle,
Right.
so to speak.
Right.
It turned out in retrospect to be one of the best decisions of my life, as my firm is still going after almost 25 years, and both of the larger law firms that I started with are not even in business any longer.
Wow, so that one client is really what pushed you to go out on your own in the first place, having that one client.
It is. It was actually a really good client. It's actually a client I still have to this day for over 25 years, so that really gave me the confidence. It's all about risk taking as an entrepreneur and in business, and it gave me the confidence to take that risk.
So, moving on, what is a typical day for you like?
I started out beginning my day when I first started practicing law very early in the morning, primarily because the workload required a lot of new associates. That was the main reason. However, I soon learned the value of starting early when no phones are ringing and not as many things that are there to distract me. So I continued that throughout my practice. I have since learned from the beginning that many successful entrepreneurs, business persons, and even lawyers all seem to have the practice of starting the day early in common, and that seems to be a common ingredient for success no matter what profession you're in. So I actually believe it's been one of the keys to my success. My day typically starts at about 5 a.m. and sometimes earlier. I'm usually at the office by 6:30 or 7 in the morning before anyone else arrives. I also found that working on harder tasks earlier is the best for me while my mind is still fresh. I'm a little bit more of a morning person, so I'm not as taxed in the morning, and I can take on the harder tasks first, and as the day goes on, I work on those tasks that aren't as hard. So I try to address the hard stuff first. As a lawyer, like writing motions, memorandums, orders, or conducting difficult research projects, and as the day progresses, I move toward like answering emails or responding to emails or other tasks that aren't as hard. So as a litigation attorney, I'm also often in court on a typical day, or preparing to go to court for various types of hearings, and sometimes I have depositions that come up from time to time as well on a typical work day.
Who would you say in your profession inspires you the most?
There's probably not one particular person that inspires me the most. I'd have to say I'm really inspired by other attorneys and judges that I see are really dedicated and prepared for what they do, and they have a professional demeanor and rapport with other people. Practicing as long as I have, I've seen many in the legal profession that try to get by without doing what it takes to be successful, by cutting corners or just arguing quote unquote loudly, as opposed to having like well-reasoned arguments based on the law and the facts. During my first year in law school, I heard a professor say that if you have the law and the facts on your side, you calmly argue the law and the facts in a reasonable and rational way, and if you don't, you talk loudly and pound your fist a lot on the table.
Right.
And since I've seen a lot of loud arguing and pounding the fist, I'm inspired by those who take the time to understand the law and the facts and to argue reasonably and rationally with the professional attitude that I believe should characterize those who have dedicated their lives to seeking justice for others.
That's really good. Is credibility important in this business? And if so, why?
In my opinion, credibility is everything to a lawyer and practicing law, and as it is in almost any profession. But in my area of the legal profession, civil litigation, the credibility of the individual lawyer is really crucial to success. Most of litigation has been in pretrial practice. Most people think you're going to a trial all the time, but it's mainly filing motions, arguing hearings and points of law before a judge, rather than spent in trial before a judge or a jury. The perception of credibility and reputation for being a straight shooter is paramount for a litigator, because much of the work of the litigator in making arguments before a judge, who you see very often, depends on the judge's perception of you being credible and honest. And often you have to educate the judge on the law and the facts. And so credibility and honesty and accurately presenting the law and the facts in a case goes a long way toward getting a favorable outcome for your clients. What I found is those that don't practice that way are quickly identified and often lose credibility, and then that negatively impacts the perception of their arguments. So this is particularly true also when you go before a jury, because juries are they are very much influenced by their perception of the truthfulness of the attorney, their credibility, and so credibility is really key as a lawyer.
Yeah, I'm sure just like in life in general, your reputation is what people think about you and they hear your name is really important.
It really is.
I can see that, especially being the case with the law.
For sure.
If something goes wrong, just in general, how do you personally deal with a problem, say with an employee or just in general?
Well, I would say, particularly in the law, there's so many deadlines that you have to meet and that are imposed on your case by both the other side and by the courts, and it's really easy to miss something. It's really easy for your employee to miss something. And my biggest thing when something goes wrong in the practice of law is to face it head on and to act quickly, not to act like it hasn't happened, but
Right.
to face it head on. In the law, there's often even negative consequences if something's gone wrong, and you always hear the phrase, you sit on your hands, like you just sit on your
Right.
hands and do nothing for a long time. If you don't act timely, then a lot of times your failure to correct something that's gone wrong can prejudice the other side and can impact your success in the case. So really it's just, when something's gone wrong, is to be honest about it, to face it head on, and then to act quickly to take care of whatever happened.
Right. You gotta be humble a little bit.
You do. Sometimes you have to be humble the way if you've done something that you have to either apologize for, but you have to have a little humility as a lawyer, and I think that's really important.
I agree. What is the best way that you try to market your business, your law firm?
There's a lot of new ways that businesses now market today with social media and the internet, and that's happened in the area of the law. But one thing about the law that's different as an entrepreneur in the legal profession is anything you do, marketing has to be done within the confines of the professional rules.
Right.
The professional rules that govern the practice also tell you to what extent you can market. So that's a little bit different thing in the practice of law. For my particular practice, and I've developed a certain niche, which is representing consumers in actions filed by what we call debt buyers. Actually, the best way for me to market is kind of the old-fashioned way, is to send out a direct mail letter that has to be approved by the bar, and we do that by locating cases in the court websites, and then we actually have a whole system of marketing through direct mail. And then when the clients call in, we're able to follow up on that. And for us, we kind of gone back to that way as opposed to more the social media way.
That's interesting. How would you say you build up a loyal customer base?
Well, I mean, the first and best way, whether it's legal profession or other businesses, to do a great job is to get good results, get great results. If you do that, then you'll build a loyal customer base. It's also important that you communicate to your customers or your clients. That's one of the biggest complaints about lawyers is not enough communication. So consistent communication with your clients, doing a good job, really helps to build a loyal customer base.
Right. And not treating them like just a paycheck, and treating them like a person, and like, trying to put yourself in their shoes, I feel like can probably be a big way to make them feel like you're paying attention to them.
Absolutely. Having some empathy toward them, and not just kind of forgetting about your income on a case, but really putting them first, whatever's best for them. And that, in the long run, that helps you the most as well.
What advice would you give to other people who are interested in law? Maybe opening up their own practice.
Well, first and foremost, as a lawyer, like other professions, so to speak, like a doctor is, you have to devote yourself during school to doing the best that you can, particularly law school. Also I'm a litigator, and for litigators, one of the biggest things is to really know the rules of procedure. I know that sounds kind of technical, but that has helped me so much throughout my practice, is really understanding what the rules of procedure say you can and can't do. Then once you're practicing law after law school, the most important advice I would give to anybody, hands down, is the one word: preparation. Prepare more than your opponent, and then over prepare. Like that's the biggest thing. That will take you a long way in this profession. Since I've practiced so long, I've seen a lot of attorneys that don't prepare, and if you will prepare, you'll be 10 steps ahead in most cases. So that would be the biggest thing is to do. And then from the business standpoint is to try to grow and build your practice within your financial means and abilities. It is a business, and it's not just a law practice, it's an actual business, so you have to keep that in mind as well.
Right. And what do you think could be the advantages or disadvantages of being an entrepreneur and working for yourself versus working for someone else?
Well, the advantage and disadvantage are almost similar, believe it or not. But the absolute best advantage is you're able to control your own future and your own destiny.
Right.
You still have the pressure of deadlines, pressure from clients, pressure to succeed, but you have more control over shaping your own work, your own goals, and what values are important to you. You don't have somebody else dictating that to you. That's the main advantage. The main disadvantage is really linked to that, which is it's also up to you. That there's no safety net. Like that can sometimes even place more pressure on you than if you work for somebody else, because it's up to you. And sometimes it can even have a negative impact, because you may tend to work more than you normally would, and the very reason many get into their own businesses to have more time over their families, but it can sometimes flip and cause you to have less time because it is up to you.
Right. And just finishing up here, what would you say is, just if you could pick one, the best moment that you've had owning your own law firm?
Well, there's a lot of different moments you can point to, and I don't know I have one particular, but the most satisfying and best moments are where I'm able to help, I guess, quote unquote, the little guy, like somebody that doesn't have the ability to help themselves, to level the playing field, so to speak, for somebody that's disadvantaged in one way or the other. In most cases, that's involved going up against opponents with seemingly unlimited resources. So think kind of David and Goliath,
Right.
and you can imagine, just like in sports, if you're the little guy and you go up against the big guy, that's a really great moment, when you win. So to bring a positive impact and outcome for somebody disadvantaged against your opponent who has deep pockets or top level attorneys, that really is kind of one of the best moments as a lawyer, to help those that can't help themselves, and to, I guess in essence, to achieve justice even against overwhelming odds.
Right.
I would say that's the best moments in my profession.
Yeah, and I know some lawyers have a little bit of a reputation for wanting to take advantage of situations where people are injured or things like that. So I think it's really cool that you're in a position where you can be a lawyer and also help people, which is like, that's probably like the dream of any lawyer. They can make money and help people at the same time. So that's really cool.
It really has, and really that's kind of been what I've developed as a niche, is being able to do that, is being able to help people and put them first, but in the long run it also helps me as well, and that's the best part of being, at least what I've developed at this point in my career, is helping others. In essence, in the long run, it helps me as well, and helps the community that I try to serve.
Well, thank you for your time. That's going to wrap up our my oral history interview. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Enjoyed it.